now we're at the $25,000 plane.
Three of us will be going on the most luxurious vacation.
Today I am searching for 3 secrets.
Have you ever noticed how your mood changes after watching certain types of content? Not just your mood for a few minutes, but the way you think, the way you react, even the way you see yourself. Maybe you start your day feeling normal, then after scrolling for an hour, you feel anxious, irritated, or strangely empty, and it is not always obvious why. Now here is the uncomfortable question. What if the content you consume every day is slowly shaping your personality, not just influencing your opinions, but actually changing who you are? Today we are going to talk about something called the Big 5 personality traits, also known as the Ocean Model. This is one of the most widely accepted frameworks in psychology for understanding human personality. But we are not just going to explain it like a textbook. We are going to connect it to your daily life, your habits, and especially your relationship with social media and content creators. Because whether we like it or not, the internet is no longer just something we use. It is something that is shaping us. Let's start with a simple idea. Every person has a unique personality. But psychologists have found that most human personalities can be described using 5 main dimensions. Those 5 are openness, conscientiousness, extroversion, agreeableness, and neuroticism. Together, they form the word ocean. Now don't worry, we are not going to turn this into a lecture. Instead, I want you to think about yourself as we go through each one. Let's begin with openness. Openness is about curiosity. It is about how willing you are to explore new ideas, new experiences, and new perspectives. People high in openness tend to enjoy creativity, art, deep conversations, and learning new things. People low in openness usually prefer routine, familiarity, and clear structure. Now think about the kind of content you watch. Do you watch documentaries, educational videos, or content that challenges your thinking? Or do you mostly stick to familiar entertainment, the same type of videos, the same style, over and over again? There is no judgment here, but there is a pattern. The more you expose yourself to new ideas, the more your brain adapts to complexity. And the more you stay within the same type of content, the more your brain becomes comfortable with repetition. Social media platforms understand this very well. Their goal is not to expand your mind. Their goal is to keep you watching, so they show you more of what you already like. Over time, this creates a bubble, a very comfortable, very addictive bubble. And slowly, your openness can shrink without you even realizing it. Now let's move to conscientiousness. This trait is about discipline, responsibility, and self-control. People high in conscientiousness tend to plan ahead, stay organized, and follow through on their goals. People low in this trait may struggle with procrastination, impulsive decisions, and inconsistency. Now think about your daily routine. How often do you pick up your phone without thinking? How often do you plan to watch one video and then end up watching 10? This is not just about willpower. It is about how your environment is shaping your behavior. Most online platforms are designed to reduce friction. Autoplay, endless scrolling, notifications. All of these features are built to make it easier for you to stay. But here is the problem. When everything becomes easy, discipline becomes harder. Your brain starts to expect constant stimulation. It becomes less tolerant of boredom. And boredom is actually important. It is where focus, creativity, and deep work begin. If you never allow yourself to be bored, you slowly weaken your ability to concentrate. Over time, this can lower your conscientiousness. You might find it harder to stick to goals, harder to stay organized, and easier to get distracted. Now let's talk about extroversion. This one is more familiar. It is about how energized you feel around people. Extroverts enjoy social interaction, excitement, and being around others. Introverts prefer quieter environments and deeper, more meaningful connections. Now here is where things get interesting. Social media creates the illusion of social interaction. You can like, comment, share, and feel connected without actually being present with anyone. For some people, this feels like enough. But for many, it creates a strange imbalance. You feel socially active online, but emotionally disconnected in real life. You might have hundreds of interactions but still feel lonely. This is because real human connection is more than just communication. It involves body language, tone, eye contact, and shared experiences. When most of your social energy goes into a screen, your real-life social skills can weaken, and your sense of connection can become shallow. Now let's move to agreeableness. This trait is about empathy, kindness, and how well you get along with others. People high in agreeableness are cooperative, understanding, and compassionate. People low in agreeableness may be more competitive, skeptical, or even confrontational. Now think about the tone of the content you consume. Is it positive, supportive, and thoughtful? Or is it filled with conflict, arguments, and outrage? Because here is the truth. Negative content spreads faster. It grabs attention. It triggers emotion. It keeps people engaged. And the more you consume that kind of content, the more it affects your mindset. You may start to see the world as more hostile than it really is. You may become more defensive, more reactive, and less patient with others. Over time, this can reduce your agreeableness. You may not even notice it happening. You just feel more irritated, more judgmental, and less understanding. Finally, we come to neuroticism. This is one of the most important traits in today's digital world. Neuroticism is about emotional stability. People high in neuroticism tend to experience more anxiety, stress, mood swings, and negative emotions. People low in this trait are generally more calm, stable, and resilient. Now ask yourself this: how often does the internet make you feel anxious? How often do you compare yourself to others? How often do you feel like you are not doing enough, not achieving enough, not living enough? Social media is full of highlights. People show their best moments, their success, their happiness. But your brain does not always recognize that this is a filtered version of reality. Instead, it compares your real life to someone else's curated life. And that comparison can slowly increase your anxiety. Then there is the constant flow of information. News, opinions, trends, conflicts. It never stops. Your brain is not designed to process this much information all the time, so it becomes overwhelmed. And when the brain is overwhelmed, it becomes more reactive, more anxious, more stressed, more emotionally unstable. In other words, higher in neuroticism. Now here is the key idea. Your personality is not fixed. It is influenced by your environment, your habits, and your experiences. And today, one of the biggest influences in your environment is the content you consume, the videos you watch, the creators you follow, the platforms you spend time on. All of these are shaping your thoughts, your emotions, and your behavior. This does not mean content creators are evil, but it does mean their influence is real, and often it is stronger than we think. Because you are not just watching content, you are absorbing patterns of thinking, reacting, and feeling. And over time, those patterns become part of you. So the real question is not just what are you watching? The real question is, what is it turning you into? Take a moment and think about your favorite creators. What kind of energy do they bring? Do they make you feel inspired, calm, and thoughtful? Or do they make you feel angry, anxious, or constantly stimulated? Because whatever you feel repeatedly becomes your baseline, and your baseline shapes your personality. This is where things start to get serious. Because most people are not choosing their content consciously, they are being guided by algorithms, and algorithms do not care about your mental health. They care about engagement. They show you what keeps you watching, even if it makes you more anxious, even if it makes you more reactive, even if it slowly changes your personality in a negative way. And this is not a theory. There is growing research showing how digital environments affect mood, attention, and emotional stability. So if you have been feeling more stressed, more distracted, or more emotionally sensitive lately, it might not just be you. It might be what you are consuming every day. But here is the good news. Once you become aware of this, you can start to take control. You can start to choose your content more intentionally. You can start to protect your attention, your emotions, and your personality. And that is exactly what we are going to talk about next. In the next part, we will go deeper into how different types of content specifically affect your brain, your emotions, and your long-term personality. And more importantly, what you can actually do to stay mentally strong in a world that is constantly trying to pull your attention. Now let's go deeper into something most people never stop to question. Not all content affects you the same way. Two people can spend the same amount of time online, but walk away feeling completely different. One feels motivated, clear, and focused. The other feels anxious, distracted, and emotionally drained. So what creates that difference? It comes down to the type of content you consume and the emotional patterns it reinforces in your brain. Let's start with fast content. Short videos, quick cuts, constant stimulation. These are designed to grab your attention instantly and hold it for as long as possible. There is nothing wrong with short content on its own. The problem is when it becomes your primary source of stimulation. Your brain starts adapting to speed. It expects quick rewards, fast entertainment, and constant novelty. Now think about what happens when you try to do something slow. Reading a book, studying, working on a long-term goal. It suddenly feels harder than it should. Not because you are lazy, but because your brain has been trained to expect something else. This directly affects your attention span, but it also affects your patience. And patience is deeply connected to emotional stability. When you lose patience, you become more reactive, more easily frustrated, more likely to feel overwhelmed. This is one of the subtle ways fast content increases neuroticism. Now let's talk about comparison-based content. This is everywhere. Success stories, luxury lifestyles, perfect bodies, perfect routines. At first glance, it looks motivating. You see someone achieving something, and it makes you think you can do it too. And sometimes that is true. But repeated exposure creates a different effect. Instead of inspiration, it creates pressure. Instead of motivation, it creates self-doubt. You start measuring your life against unrealistic standards. And slowly, your sense of self-worth becomes tied to external validation. This is where anxiety begins to grow, because no matter how much you achieve, there is always someone doing more, someone looking better, someone living a life that seems more exciting, and your brain keeps comparing. This constant comparison is one of the biggest drivers of emotional instability in the digital age. Now, let's look at outrage content. Videos that are designed to make you angry. Arguments, controversies, extreme opinions. These perform extremely well online because they trigger strong emotions, and strong emotions keep people engaged. But here is what happens inside your brain. Every time you consume this type of content, your brain practices reacting. It gets better at feeling anger quickly. It becomes more sensitive to negativity. And over time, this changes your default emotional state. You may find yourself getting irritated more easily, reacting more strongly in everyday situations, losing patience with people who disagree with you. This does not just affect your mood, it affects your relationships, your communication, your ability to stay calm under pressure. In other words, it reshapes your personality. Now here is something even more subtle. Identity-based content. This is content that tells you who you are. Not directly, but through repeated messaging. It might say things like, people like you always struggle, or people like you are better than others, or this is how you should think, feel, and act. At first, it feels relatable. You feel seen, you feel understood, but over time, it can become limiting. Because instead of exploring who you are, you start fitting into a predefined identity. And once your identity becomes rigid, your growth slows down. You become less open to new ideas, less willing to change, more attached to a specific way of thinking. This affects openness and agreeableness at the same time. Now take a step back and think about this. Every piece of content you consume is doing one of two things. It is either expanding you or narrowing you. It is either making you more thoughtful or more reactive, more stable or more anxious, more open or more rigid. And the effect is not immediate. It builds over time, like habits, like patterns, quietly, consistently shaping who you become. This is why your choice of content creators matters more than you think. Because you are not just choosing entertainment, you are choosing influence. You are choosing whose voice gets repeated in your mind every day. Now, here is a question that might feel uncomfortable. If someone could see your watch history, what would they assume about your personality? Would they see curiosity, discipline, emotional stability, or would they see distraction, comparison, and constant stimulation? This is not about guilt, it is about awareness. Because once you see the pattern, you can change it. Let's talk about how. The first step is not to quit social media. That is unrealistic for most people. The first step is to become intentional. Start noticing how different types of content make you feel, not just while you are watching, but after. Do you feel calm or restless, focused or distracted, inspired or inadequate? Your emotions are feedback. They tell you whether something is helping you or harming you. The second step is to create boundaries. Not extreme rules, but simple limits. For example, you might decide not to start your day with social media, or not to use your phone right before sleep. These small changes protect your mental state during the most sensitive times of your day. The third step is to balance your content. If most of what you consume is fast and stimulating, add something slow and meaningful. Long-form conversations, books, educational content. Give your brain a chance to slow down, to think, to process. This strengthens your attention and reduces emotional reactivity. The fourth step is to curate your environment. Unfollow accounts that make you feel worse about yourself. Follow creators who add value to your life, who challenge you in a healthy way, who encourage growth instead of comparison. This is not about positivity only. It is about quality, content that makes you think, not just react. And finally, give yourself space away from the screen, because no matter how good your content choices are, you still need real experiences, real conversations, real moments of silence. This is where your mind resets. This is where emotional stability grows. Now, here is something important to understand. You do not need to be perfect. You will still scroll sometimes. You will still watch things that are not ideal. That is normal. What matters is your overall direction. Are you becoming more aware, more intentional, more in control of your attention? Because attention is one of the most valuable things you have, and whatever you give your attention to grows inside you. So if you constantly give your attention to anxiety, comparison, and outrage, those will grow. But if you give your attention to learning, calm thinking, and meaningful ideas, those will grow instead. And over time, that changes your personality in a powerful way. Now, as we move into the final part, we are going to connect everything together. We will talk about how to rebuild a healthier mental environment, how to reduce neuroticism in a practical way, and how to use the internet without letting it control you. Because the goal is not to disconnect from the world. The goal is to stay connected without losing yourself in the process. Now let's bring everything into one clear idea. Your personality is not something that just exists on its own. It is something that is shaped every single day by what you pay attention to. And in today's world, attention is constantly being pulled in different directions. So the real challenge is not avoiding the internet. The real challenge is learning how to exist within it, without letting it reshape you in a negative way. Let's focus on one trait in particular, neuroticism, because this is where most people are struggling right now, even if they do not realize it. Feeling anxious for no clear reason, feeling restless even when nothing is wrong, feeling emotionally tired after doing almost nothing physical. This is not weakness. It is often the result of constant mental stimulation without enough recovery. Your brain is always processing, always reacting, always comparing, and it rarely gets a break. So how do you reduce that? Not through extreme changes, but through consistent, simple habits that give your mind space to breathe. Start with your mornings. The first hour of your day is powerful. If you begin it by checking your phone, you are immediately stepping into other people's thoughts, opinions, and emotions. Your brain has no time to stabilize itself. Instead, try starting your day without screens, even if it is just for 20 or 30 minutes. Let your mind wake up slowly. This small shift can reduce anxiety more than you might expect. Now think about your input during the day. Most people consume content in a completely passive way. They scroll, watch, react, and move on. But what if you became more selective? Before you watch something, ask yourself a simple question. Why am I choosing this? Is it just to escape boredom? Or is it adding something useful to my mind? You do not need a perfect answer every time, but asking the question itself creates awareness, and awareness changes behavior. Now let's talk about emotional triggers. Certain types of content are designed to pull you into strong reactions: anger, fear, urgency. If you notice your emotions rising quickly while watching something, pause. Not forever, just for a moment. Give yourself space to respond instead of react. This builds emotional control over time. And emotional control is one of the strongest protections against high neuroticism. Another powerful habit is reflection. At the end of the day, take a few minutes to think about what you consumed. Not in detail, just generally. What kind of content filled your mind today? And how do you feel now? Calm or restless? Clear or distracted? Over time, you will start to see patterns. And once you see the patterns, you can adjust them. Now let's talk about something deeper. Identity. Most people think their personality is fixed, that this is just how I am. But that is not entirely true. You are shaped by repetition. What you do repeatedly becomes who you are. So if you repeatedly expose yourself to chaos, your mind becomes chaotic. If you repeatedly expose yourself to thoughtful, meaningful content, your mind becomes more stable. This means you have more control than you think. You are not just a product of your environment, you are also a creator of it. Through your choices, through your habits, through what you allow into your mind. Now imagine this. Two people wake up and spend the same amount of time online. One fills their mind with noise, comparison, and constant stimulation. The other fills their mind with ideas, learning, and balanced perspectives. After a few months, they are not the same. They think differently. They react differently. They feel differently. And after a few years, they become completely different people. This is the long-term effect of small daily choices. And this is why this conversation matters. Because it is not just about content. It is about direction. Who are you becoming? Not in a dramatic way, but slowly, quietly, day by day. Are you becoming more calm or more reactive? More focused or more distracted? More thoughtful or more impulsive? You do not need to change everything overnight. That is not realistic. But you can start with one simple shift. Choose your content like it matters, because it does. Choose what you watch the same way you would choose what you eat. Not every choice has to be perfect, but your overall pattern should support your well-being. And remember this, the internet is a tool. It can educate you, inspire you, and connect you, or it can overwhelm you, distract you, and drain you. The difference is not the platform, it is how you use it, and how consciously you engage with it. So the next time you open your phone, pause for a second, not to stop yourself completely, but to remind yourself, I am choosing what enters my mind right now. And that choice matters more than it seems, because over time, it shapes how you think, how you feel, and ultimately, who you become. That is the real power of content, and that is the responsibility that comes with it.